Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. 5 years ago, Altair 3 Station. The corridor stank of burnt ozone and alien blood. Garrett King stepped over the twitching corpse of something that had once been bipedal, wiping mercury-forged steel clean on its armored hide. Behind him, his butler adjusted his bow tie with hands still dripping purple ichor. "Sir," Benson said in his crisp Texas drawl, "I do believe we've turned this hallway into a proper barbecue pit." 3 more Vidrex soldiers rounded the corner, their claws scraping metal. Garrett sighed and raised his sword. The blade caught the emergency lighting, throwing shadows that danced like ghosts. "Permission to carve these boys like Thanksgiving turkey?" Benson asked, his servos whirring as combat protocols engaged. "Granted." The first alien died before it finished its war cry. The second managed half a step. The third got to watch Benson fold its companion into origami before joining the pile. "Messy work," Garrett muttered, stepping through the carnage. "Sir, with respect, you say that like it's a bad thing." Benson straightened his blood-spattered vest. "Now, about that seal you mentioned." Garrett's hand moved instinctively to his coat pocket. "Later, we're going home. Our days." The crash shattered my morning routine like a sledgehammer through stained glass. I'd been standing in Broken Hole Manor's eastern tower, watching dawn paint the valley gold when something punched through the atmosphere and cratered my front lawn. The impact rattled every window in the house, and this place had windows older than most nations. "Sir," Benson's voice crackled through the intercom, "it appears we have a delivery." I pulled on my coat and boots, the familiar weight of my sword settling against my hip. What kind of delivery punches a hole through 3 feet of earth? The interesting kind, I reckon. The capsule sat steaming in a crater that had obliterated my prize rosebush. 20 feet of brushed metal and alien script, still glowing with re-entry heat. I'd seen similar designs before. Rinal's people used them for long-distance transport, which meant this was either the pet he'd promised to send, or I was about to have a very bad day. The seal cracked with a hiss of pressurized air. I stepped back, hand on my sword hilt as the capsule split open like a mechanical flower. No tentacles, no fangs, no bioluminescent death slime. Just her. She unfolded from the capsule like something from a fever dream, all curves and impossible angles wrapped in what might generously be called armor if you'd never seen actual armor. Her skin was the color of new leaves, smooth as polished jade, and her eyes, Christ, her eyes were the blue of deep ocean water, bright enough to make you forget how to breathe. She blinked once, twice, then fixed those impossible eyes on me. "Where am I?" Her voice had an accent I couldn't place, something that made English sound like music. "My front yard," I said. "Earth, Sol system, 3rd rock from the sun." She sat up fully, and I discovered that whatever cosmic joke had designed her species had a twisted sense of humor. The armor, if that's what it was, covered just enough to be legal and not nearly enough to be practical. She caught me looking and smiled. "You're staring. You're in my rosebush." "I'm sorry about your plant." She stood with fluid grace, brushing soil from her legs. "I'm Talia. Rinal said you'd take care of me." The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Rinal, the Catherian scout who'd saved my life during the Proxima incident, who disappeared 6 months ago on a deep space reconnaissance mission, who'd sent me one last message: take care of her. She's more important than you think. "You're the pet," I said. Her smile turned sharp. "Pet?" "Rinal said he was sending me something that needed looking after. I assumed—" "You assumed wrong." She stepped closer, and I caught her scent, something like cinnamon and ozone. "I'm his partner, was his partner, and he said you'd tame me." "Tame you?" His exact words. She tilted her head, studying me with Predator's eyes. "Though looking at you now, I think he might have been joking. Behind me, the manor's front door opened with its characteristic groan. Benson emerged, pristine in his formal vest and tie, carrying a silver tray with 3 cups of tea. "Sir," he said, "I took the liberty of preparing refreshments. Though I should mention, if this young lady turns out to be hostile, I've got a wood chipper in the shed that's been gathering dust." Talia's eyebrows rose. "Charming. Benson, this is Talia. Talia, my butler." "Pleasure to make your acquaintance, miss." Benson set the tray on the capsule's edge and executed a perfect bow. "I do hope you won't require any aggressive furniture rearrangement." "That depends," Talia said, accepting a cup. "Are you planning to chipper me?" "Only if you track mud on the Persian rugs. I'm particular about the carpets." She laughed, a sound like silver bells with an edge of broken glass. "I like him." "Most people do, right up until they don't." I took my own cup, noting how Talia's fingers wrapped around the china. Her nails were natural, not claws, but something in the way she held the delicate porcelain suggested she could crush it without effort. "So," I said, "partner, that cover a lot of ground." "More than you might think." She sipped her tea, watching me over the rim. "Rinal never mentioned you lived in a castle." "It's not a castle, it's an estate. With towers and gargoyles, and a butler who threatens house guests with farm equipment. Family tradition. How traditional of you." She gestured at the manor's Gothic facade. "Very imposing. Are all the humans on this planet so dramatic?" "Most of them are dead." The words came out harder than I'd intended. Talia's smile faded, and for a moment, something like understanding flickered in those ocean eyes. "The burn," she said quietly. "Rinal told me. I'm sorry." Ancient history. I finished my tea and set the cup back on Benson's tray. "The question is, what are you doing here? And why did Rinal think you needed a babysitter?" "I don't need a babysitter." Her voice carried an edge now. "I need sanctuary." "From what?" "From the people who made me." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves of the old oak trees that lined the drive. In the distance, I could hear the morning train whistle, one of the few things that still ran on schedule in this corner of the world. "Made you," I repeated. "Engineered, designed, built to specifications." She set down her cup with careful precision. "I'm what you might call a biological weapon, though I prefer to think of myself as a work of art." "And Rinal found me, freed me, gave me a choice." Her smile returned, but it didn't reach her eyes. "He said if anything happened to him, I should come to you. He said you'd understand what it's like to be dangerous." I studied her face, looking for tells. The way she held herself, the slight tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes never quite stopped moving, cataloging exits, threats, opportunities. I'd seen that look before, in the mirror. "What kind of weapon?" I asked. "The kind that gets close to her targets." She stepped closer, close enough that I could see the flecks of silver in her blue eyes. "The kind that makes people want to protect her, care for her, love her. And then they die." She reached out, one finger tracing the edge of my collar, usually screaming. I caught her wrist, gently, but firmly. Her skin was warm, almost feverish. "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning." She didn't pull away. "I don't know how to turn it off. The compulsion, the need to connect. Rinal was immune somehow, but most people aren't me." "No," she said, studying my face. "They're not. That's what makes this interesting." Benson cleared his throat. "Sir, if I might suggest we continue this conversation inside, the neighbors have been uncommonly curious about the crater." I released Talia's wrist and stepped back. "Can you walk?" "I can do a lot of things." "I meant to the house." "I know what you meant." She smiled again, and this time it was genuine. "Lead the way, Garrett King." I paused. "I never told you my name." "Rinal did. He said you were the most dangerous human he'd ever met. He said you were the only one who might be able to keep me alive. And what do you think? She looked at the manor, at Benson with his polite smile and predator's eyes, at the sword hanging at my hip. When her gaze returned to mine, there was something calculating in it. I think, she said, he might have been right. We walked toward the house in silence, our footsteps echoing off the stone path. Behind us, the capsule continued to cool, metal contracting with sharp pops like breaking bones. I'd wanted a quiet morning. Instead, I'd gotten a green-skinned weapon with ocean eyes and a smile that could start wars. Just another Tuesday at Broken Hole Manor. As we reached the front door, Talia paused and looked back at the crater in my lawn. I really am sorry about your rose bush, she said. I'll plant another. Will you plant another if I destroy something else? I considered the question. Depends on what you destroy. And if it's you? Then Benson will have to find a new job. She laughed, bright and sharp as breaking crystal. I definitely like you, Garrett King. The feeling's mutual, so far. So far, she agreed, and followed me into the house. The manor's interior seemed to swallow Talia whole. She moved through the entrance hall like a cat in a museum, her fingers trailing along the mahogany wainscoting while her eyes catalogued every shadow, every doorway, every possible escape route. How long have you lived here? She asked, pausing beneath the portrait of a severe-looking woman in Victorian dress. All my life. I hung my coat on the brass hook by the door. My family built this place before the burn. Before most of humanity died, you mean? Before most of humanity got stronger. She turned to look at me, head tilted. Is that what you call it? Getting stronger? What would you call it? Surviving. She touched the frame of another portrait, a man in military uniform, his eyes the same gray as mine. Though I suppose for humans they're the same thing now. Benson appeared in the doorway to the kitchen, having somehow managed to clear away the tea service and change into a fresh vest in the time it took us to walk 50 feet. Sir, I've prepared the blue guest room, fresh linens, complimentary soap, and I've moved the breakable antiques to higher shelves. Expecting me to trash the place? Talia asked. Ma'am, in my experience, house guests fall into two categories. Those who break things accidentally and those who break things on purpose. I find it's best to prepare for both. Which category do I fall into? The interesting kind. She laughed, and the sound echoed off the vaulted ceiling. I'm starting to see why Rinal liked you people. He stayed here? I asked. For 3 weeks, after the Proxima incident. He said you saved his life. He returned the favor. More than once, according to him. She moved to the window, gazing out at the valley below. He said you were the only human he'd ever met who wasn't afraid of him. Should I have been? Catherians are natural telepaths. Most species find that unsettling. I thought about Rinal's habit of finishing my sentences, his uncanny ability to know exactly what I needed before I asked for it. He was respectful about it. He was afraid of you. That stopped me cold. What? Not afraid of you hurting him, afraid of what he might see if he looked too deep. She turned from the window, those impossible blue eyes fixed on mine. What are you hiding, Garrett King? Everyone's hiding something. Not like you. I can feel it, this wall around your thoughts. It's like trying to read a book written in smoke. Maybe you're not as good at this as you think. Maybe you're not as human as you pretend. The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. I found myself stepping closer, drawn by something I couldn't name. What makes you think I'm pretending? The way you move, the way you watch everything without seeming to watch anything, the way you're not afraid of me. She reached out, one finger tracing the line of my jaw. Most men look at me and see either a threat or a prize. You look at me and see a puzzle. Maybe I like puzzles. Maybe you are one. Her touch was electric, sending heat racing through my veins. I caught her hand again, but this time I didn't let go. "Is this part of it?" I asked. "The weapon thing?" "I don't know." Her voice was softer now, uncertain. With Rinal, it was different. He was immune to the compulsion, but he chose to care about me anyway. With you. With me? With you, I can't tell if it's working or not, and that terrifies me. Why? Because for the first time in my life, I want it to be real. The confession hung between us like a bridge neither of us was sure we should cross. I could feel the heat radiating from her skin, smell that cinnamon ozone scent that made my head spin. "Sir," Benson's voice cut through the moment like a blade, "we have visitors." I dropped Talia's hand and moved to the window. 3 figures stood at the end of the drive, tall, angular, wearing the kind of environmental suits that screamed official business. Their vehicle was a sleek black thing that hovered 6 inches off the ground, its surface rippling with adaptive camouflage. "Friends of yours?" I asked. Talia had gone pale, her skin shifting from jade to something closer to sea foam. "They found me." "Who are they?" "Sephiro's Empire, Intelligence Division." She backed away from the window. "They're here for me." "Let me guess. They want their property back." "I'm not property." The words came out like a growl. "Not anymore." "Sir," Benson appeared at my elbow, "shall I prepare the good china for our guests or the shotgun?" "Let's start with the china. See what they want." "And if they want the young lady?" I looked at Talia, saw the fear in her eyes mixed with something fiercer, defiance maybe, or hope. "Then we'll have a conversation about hospitality." The doorbell rang, a deep, resonant chime that echoed through the house like a funeral bell. I straightened my shirt and walked to the door, Talia close behind me. The lead figure was tall even for a Saphiran, his environmental suit doing nothing to hide the predatory grace of his movements. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Garrett King?" "Depends who's asking." "Agent Vexhar, Imperial Intelligence. We're here about the asset you're harboring." "I'm not harboring anything except a house guest." "The asset is classified as a Level 3 biological weapon. It must be returned to Imperial custody or destroyed." I felt Talia tense behind me. She's not an asset. She's a person. It was designed to mimic human emotional responses. This does not make it human. Neither does having a stick up your ass, but I'm not demanding you be destroyed. Vexhar's suit shifted, adaptive armor recognizing a potential threat. "You will surrender the asset, or we will take it by force." "I'd like to see you try." The words were out before I could stop them. Not a threat, a promise. Something cold and familiar settled into my chest. The same feeling I'd had on Altair 3, on Proxima, on a dozen other battlefields where the only choice was fight or die. "Sir," Benson's voice carried from the doorway, "these gentlemen seem to have confused our home with a public storage facility." "Common mistake," I said, not taking my eyes off Vexhar. "Though I should mention that I'm particular about my guests. Anyone who wants to take one will have to go through me." "You would risk war with the Sephiro's Empire for a single asset?" "I'd risk war with the universe for a cup of coffee if it was good enough." I stepped closer to the threshold. "But that's not what this is about, is it? This is about respect, and the fact that you just called my guest an it while standing on my doorstep. The asset is Imperial property. Her name is Talia. She's drinking tea in my living room, and if you want her, you'll have to kill me first." The silence stretched between us like a drawn blade. Behind me, I could hear Talia's breathing, quick and shallow. Behind Vexhar, his companions shifted into combat positions. "This conversation is over," Vexhar said finally. "You have 24 hours to reconsider. After that, we will return with a full extraction team." "I'll be here." "So will I," Talia said, stepping into view beside me. "And I'll be ready." Vexhar's helmet turned toward her. "You cannot run forever, weapon. Eventually, you will remember what you are." "I remember what I was," she said. "What I am now is my choice." The agents retreated to their vehicle, which lifted silently into the sky and disappeared behind the tree line. I watched until the last shimmer of adaptive camouflage faded, then closed the door and turned to face Talia. She was shaking, not with fear but with adrenaline. Her eyes blazed with something fierce and wild. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For not giving me up, for calling me a person." She stepped closer, close enough that I could see the flecks of silver in her blue eyes. "For making me believe I might actually be one." "You are one. Whatever they made you, whoever they think you are, that's not who you're choosing to be." "And who am I choosing to be?" I reached out, cupping her face in my hands. Her skin was warm, almost feverish, and I could feel the pulse racing in her throat. "That's up to you." She rose on her toes, pressing her lips to mine. The kiss was electric, desperate, full of everything we couldn't say. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "I choose this," she whispered. "I choose you. Even if it gets us both killed? Especially then." I pulled her closer, feeling the impossible softness of her skin, the strength in her arms as she held me. Whatever game the Sephiro's Empire thought they were playing, whatever weapon they thought they'd created, they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd given her a choice, and now she'd made it. "Sir," Benson's voice drifted from the kitchen, "I took the liberty of preparing lunch. Though I should mention, if we're expecting a siege, I've got enough ammunition to turn this place into a proper fort." "How much ammunition?" I asked. "Enough to redecorate the entire valley, sir. In red." Talia laughed, bright and sharp as breaking crystal. "I definitely like your butler." "Most people do," I said, pulling her toward the kitchen, "right up until they don't." As we walked deeper into the house, I caught her reflection in the hall mirror, green skin, blue eyes, smile like a promise of trouble. She looked like a weapon, all right, but she was my weapon now. And I was hers. The surveillance started 3 hours after Vexhar left. I spotted the first drone while shaving, a glint of metal among the oak branches that moved wrong, too deliberate against the morning breeze. By noon, I'd counted 6 more, circling the estate like mechanical vultures. "They're being obvious about it," Talia said, joining me at the kitchen window. She'd changed into clothes from my sister's old room, jeans that hugged her curves and a white cotton shirt that made her green skin look luminous. Either they're incompetent or they want us to know we're being watched. "Psychological warfare," I said, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "Keep us paranoid, keep us isolated, wear us down until we make a mistake." "Will it work?" "Depends how long you can stand my company." She smiled, taking the offered mug. "I've endured worse fates." "Such as?" "Being locked in a sensory deprivation chamber for 6 months while they rewired my neural pathways." She sipped her coffee, watching my reaction. "They wanted to make sure I could resist interrogation. Turns out the human mind is remarkably adaptable when survival is at stake." "Is that what you're doing now? Adapting? Every second of every day?" She set down her mug and stepped closer, her fingers trailing along my collar. "The question is, are you?" Before I could answer, she was kissing me, soft at first, then deeper, her hands fisting in my shirt. I could taste the coffee on her lips, feel the heat radiating from her skin like a fever. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "What was that for?" I asked, testing a theory. "Which was? Whether I can affect your judgment when I'm trying to." "And the verdict?" "Inconclusive. I'll need more data." I laughed despite myself. "You're dangerous." "So are you." She traced the line of my jaw with one finger. "That's what makes this interesting." A soft chime echoed through the house, Benson's early warning system. We had visitors. "Sir," the butler's voice crackled through the intercom, "we have 3 unmarked vehicles approaching from the north. They're not flying the courtesy flags." I moved to the window, pulling Talia with me. 3 black SUVs wound up the mountain road, their windows tinted dark enough to hide a small army. Behind them, a 4th vehicle, larger, armored with the distinctive bulk of a military transport. "Friends of yours?" I asked. "No." Talia's voice was tight. "But I know the type. Mercenaries. The kind who don't ask questions and don't take prisoners. Well, they're about to learn about hospitality." The vehicle stopped at the estate's main gate, disgorging a dozen figures in tactical gear. Even from a distance, I could see the alien modifications: extra arms, enhanced vision arrays, weapons that had never been manufactured on Earth. "Benson," I called. "Sir?" "Time to redecorate the front yard." "With pleasure, sir. Shall I go with the autumn theme? Lots of reds and oranges?" "Your artistic choice." The first mercenary reached the gate and promptly discovered that the decorative iron spikes weren't just decorative. The electrified bars sent him convulsing to the ground, his screams echoing across the valley. "That's 1." Benson's voice carried cheerfully through the intercom. 11 to go." The remaining mercenaries spread out, taking cover behind trees and outbuildings. One of them, a Vorthak heavy with 4 arms and natural armor plating, hefted something that looked like a rocket launcher. "They're serious," Talia said. "So am I." I pulled her away from the window just as the first explosion shattered the glass. The blast wave knocked us both to the floor, showering us with crystal fragments. In the distance, I could hear Benson's delighted laughter. "Sir, they've just made this personal. That was my favorite window." "Handle it." We crawled toward the hallway as another explosion rocked the house. This one took out the front door, filling the air with smoke and splinters. Through the haze, I could see shapes moving, fast, professional, deadly. "The basement," I said, grabbing Talia's hand. "There's a safe room." We ran through the manor's winding corridors, past portraits that had watched over my family for generations. Behind us, I could hear the mercenaries spreading through the house, their alien voices harsh and guttural. The basement door was hidden behind a false panel in the library. I pressed my palm to the scanner, and the wall slid aside, revealing stairs that descended into darkness. "Garrett," Talia's voice was strange, distant. "I need to tell you something." "Later. Move." "No, now, before—" A plasma bolt sizzled past my ear, scorching the wall beside us. I shoved Talia through the opening and followed, slamming the door behind us. The lock engaged with a satisfying click, 6 inches of titanium steel composite. It would hold for a while. The basement was larger than the house above, carved from living rock and lined with enough technology to outfit a small fleet. Banks of servers hummed quietly in the darkness, their status lights painting everything in shades of blue and green. "What is this place?" Talia asked, her voice echoing in the vast space. "My family's workshop." I moved to a control console, my fingers dancing over holographic displays. "We've been collectors for a long time." "Collectors of what?" "Secrets, weapons, things that shouldn't exist." The main display flickered to life, showing security feeds from around the estate. The mercenaries had taken the upper floors, but Benson was making their lives difficult. I watched him corner 3 of them in the kitchen, his polite butler persona replaced by something made of servos and death. "Gentlemen," his voice carried through the speakers, "you've just committed a serious breach of etiquette. In Texas, we have a saying about uninvited guests." "What saying?" one of the mercenaries asked. "Trespassers get turned into pulled pork." The screams that followed were brief. "Your butler is terrifying," Talia said. "He's efficient." I pulled up another display, this one showing the estate's defensive systems. "The question is, what do they want with you that's worth this much trouble?" You still don't understand, do you? She was standing behind me now, close enough that I could feel her breath on my neck. They're not here for me, Garrett. They're here for you. I turned to face her. What? The Sephiro's Empire didn't send me to hide. They sent me to find you. Her blue eyes were luminous in the display's glow. You're the target. You always have been. That's impossible. Is it? She stepped closer, her hand resting on my chest. Think about it. Rinal just happened to crash land near your estate 5 years ago. I just happened to be sent to you when he disappeared. The mercenaries just happened to find us within hours of my arrival. You're saying it's all connected. I'm saying you're Garrett King, last heir of the founder families, carrier of the genetic keys to technologies that could reshape the galaxy. Her voice was soft, hypnotic. And I was designed to get close to you, to earn your trust, to make you care about me. Was it working? That's the problem. I don't know anymore. She looked away. I was supposed to seduce you, sleep with you, then deliver you to my handlers. Simple infiltration and extraction. But somewhere along the way, I started caring about you for real. And according to my people's laws, that means I can never go home. The admission hung between us like a bridge made of broken glass. I wanted to reach for her, to pull her close, but something held me back. So what now? I asked. Now you have to decide if you trust me. She met my eyes again. Because in about 30 seconds, those mercenaries are going to break through that door and we're going to need each other if we want to survive. As if summoned by her words, the sound of cutting torches echoed from above. They'd found the basement entrance. There's another way out, I said, moving toward the back of the chamber. But first, I need to show you something. I led her deeper into the basement, past rows of archived technology and sealed containment units. At the far end, hidden behind a curtain of hanging cables, was a door I'd never opened. What's in there? Talia asked. My family's greatest secret. I pressed my palm to the scanner. The reason the Sephiro's Empire wants me so badly. The door opened with a whisper of pressurized air, revealing a chamber that had been sealed for decades. At its center, suspended in a field of crackling energy, was something that looked like a cross between a computer terminal and an ancient altar. The Founder's Seal, I said, the key to every advanced technology in the galaxy. It's been in my family for generations, waiting for the right moment to be activated. And when will that moment come? When humanity needs it most. I approached the seal, feeling its power thrumming through the air. Or when someone tries to take it by force. Garrett, Talia's voice was strained. I need to tell you something else. What? The seal can only be activated by genetic code, specifically the genetic code of the person it was designed for. She paused. It was designed for you. How do you know that? Because that's why they sent me. Her confession came out in a rush. They need you to activate it voluntarily. The seal won't work if you're coerced. It has to be your choice. And if I refuse, then my people die. My entire world is dying, Garrett. The seal is the only thing that can save them. I stared at the ancient artifact, feeling the weight of generations pressing down on me. My ancestors had built this place, had hidden these secrets, had made bargains with powers I couldn't imagine. And now, it all came down to me. What happens if I activate it? I don't know. No one does. The seal has never been used before. Above us, the sound of cutting torches grew louder. They were almost through. Sir, Benson's voice crackled through the intercom. I've reduced our guests to a more manageable number, but I'm afraid they've brought some rather impressive firepower. You might want to consider relocating. Copy that, Benson. I turned to Talia, seeing the fear and hope warring in her blue eyes. She'd been honest with me, finally, but honesty was a luxury we couldn't afford. Not with an army of mercenaries trying to break down our door. There's a tunnel, I said. It leads to the old mine shaft. We can get out that way. And then what? Then we figure out who we can trust. I moved toward a section of wall that looked identical to every other section. When I pressed my hand to it, it swung inward, revealing a narrow passage carved from living rock. After you, I said. Talia hesitated. Garrett, Save it. We'll have time to talk when we're not being hunted. She nodded and stepped into the tunnel. I followed, sealing the entrance behind us. The passage was dark, lit only by bioluminescent strips my ancestors had installed decades ago. Our footsteps echoed in the confined space. How far does this go? Talia asked. 2 miles. It comes out in the forest near the old logging camp. And then? Then we disappear. We walked in silence for a while, the only sounds our breathing and the distant rumble of explosions from above. The mercenaries were tearing my home apart, looking for us, looking for the seal. I'm sorry, Talia said finally. For what? For lying to you, for using you, for everything. Are you sorry you care about me? No. Her voice was soft. That's the one thing I'm not sorry about. Then we're even. We reached the tunnel's end, a rusted iron door that opened onto a hillside overlooking the valley. In the distance, I could see smoke rising from the estate, my family's home, burning while strangers ransacked it for secrets. What now? Talia asked. Now we find out who's really behind this. I helped her out of the tunnel, then sealed it behind us, and we make them pay. How? By giving them exactly what they want. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd memorized years ago but never used. Who are you calling? Talia asked. The Galactic Consortium. If everyone wants the seal so badly, maybe it's time they all got a chance to bid on it. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Garrett King. It's been a long time. Not long enough, Marcus. I have something you want. The Founder's seal? Yes, I know. The question is, what do you want in return? Safe passage, protection, and answers. All of that can be arranged, but I'll need proof that you actually have it. I looked at Talia, seeing the fear in her eyes. She knew what I was thinking. You'll have your proof, I said, but if you try to double-cross me, I'll activate the seal and take everyone with me. Understood. The extraction team will be at your location in 1 hour. I hung up and turned to Talia. Well? You're really going to do this? I'm going to end this, one way or another. She stepped closer, her hand resting on my chest. What if I told you there was another way? I'd say you're out of options. What if I told you that everything I've said tonight was the truth, except for one thing? What thing? That I'm the weapon. She smiled, and for the first time since I'd met her, it looked genuinely sad. I'm not the weapon, Garrett. I'm the bait. What do you mean? I mean the real weapon is already inside you, has been since the day you were born, and everything that's happened, Renal's crash, my arrival, the mercenaries, all of it was designed to activate it. I stared at her, feeling the world shift beneath my feet. You're lying. Am I? She reached out, her fingers tracing the line of my jaw. Tell me, Garrett, when did you start having the dreams, the ones where you're standing in a field of stars holding something that burns like the sun? The dreams. I've been having them since childhood, but they'd gotten stronger lately, more vivid, more real. How do you know about the dreams? Because I've been watching you for a long time, since before Renal's crash, since before you knew I existed. She stepped back, her expression unreadable. The question is, now that you know the truth, what are you going to do about it? In the distance, I could hear the whine of approaching aircraft, the extraction team, right on schedule. I'm going to find out what I really am, I said, and if you don't like what you find, then I'll change it. She laughed, bright and sharp as breaking crystal. I knew I liked you for a reason. The aircraft landed in the clearing below us, their rotors whipping the grass into a frenzy. Soldiers in combat gear poured out, weapons raised, forming a perimeter around the landing zone. "Time to go," I said. "Together? For now." We started down the hillside toward the waiting aircraft and whatever truth lay beyond. Behind us, the estate continued to burn, my family's secrets going up in smoke. But some secrets I was learning were harder to destroy than others, and some truths were worth any price. The extraction team never made it to the ground. I watched from the hillside as plasma fire erupted from the tree line, turning the approaching aircraft into falling stars. The soldiers who'd been forming a perimeter were already dead, their bodies scattered across the clearing like broken dolls. "Well," Talia said, her voice tight with dark humor, "that's not good." "Marcus," I muttered, pulling out my phone. The line was dead. Of course it was. More ships appeared on the horizon, sleek consortium vessels accompanied by the jagged silhouettes of mercenary frigates. The entire sky was filling with enemies, their weapons charging with the distinctive whine of military-grade plasma cannons. "How many people want you dead?" Talia asked. "Apparently, all of them." The first barrage hit the manor, turning the eastern wing into a fireball. I watched my childhood home collapse in on itself, centuries of history reduced to ash and smoke, but the basement and the seal were still intact. I could feel it calling to me, a resonance in my bones that grew stronger with each passing moment. "We need to get back down there," I said. "Are you insane? They'll be waiting for us. Then we'll have to disappoint them." I started back toward the burning estate, but Talia caught my arm. Her grip was strong enough to crack bone, though she was trying to be gentle. "Garrett, listen to me. There's something else you need to know. Now isn't the time for more revelations. This one might save our lives." She pulled me close, her blue eyes reflecting the flames. "The seal isn't just a key to galactic technology. It's a weapon, the most powerful weapon ever created." "Explain." "Your ancestors didn't just make a pact to save humanity. They made a pact to dominate it. The seal can rewrite the fundamental laws of physics in a localized area. It can turn stars into black holes, create wormholes, even manipulate time itself." I stared at her. "And you're telling me this now because?" "Because if you activate it while you're angry, while you're in pain, it won't just reset civilization. It'll end it." Above us, the consortium ships were taking positions, their weapons trained on the manor's remains. In the distance, I could see drop pods launching from the larger vessels, carrying what looked like an entire army. "How do you know all this?" I asked. "Because my people have been studying the seal for generations. We know what it can do. We know what it did before." "Before? The solar flare that nearly destroyed Earth? That wasn't natural. That was the seal, activated by one of your ancestors in a moment of desperation. It was supposed to destroy the alien invasion fleet, but it got out of control." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. The burn. The event that had killed billions and transformed the survivors into something harder, stronger, more dangerous. It hadn't been a natural disaster. It had been a weapon. "My family did that?" "Your family saved humanity, but they also nearly destroyed it in the process." I thought about the portraits in the manor, the severe faces of men and women who'd carried secrets too heavy for any one person to bear. My ancestors, the founders, who'd made impossible choices in impossible times. "And now it's my turn," I said. "Yes." The first drop pod crashed into the courtyard, disgorging a squad of consortium marines in full combat armor. They moved with military precision, securing the perimeter while their comrades landed around them. "Sir," Benson's voice crackled through my earpiece, "I'm afraid our guests have overstayed their welcome. Permission to commence aggressive housekeeping." "Granted." "And Benson." "Yes, sir." "Make it memorable." The butler's laughter echoed across the battlefield as the manor's defensive systems came online. Hidden turrets rose from the ground, their barrels spinning up with the sound of industrial machinery. The first wave of Marines disappeared in a hail of superheated metal, their screams cut short by the roar of automated weapons. "Well," Benson's voice carried over the chaos, "looks like we're having a Texas barbecue tonight. Hope y'all brought appetites for lead." More drop pods hit the ground, their occupants spreading out to avoid the defensive fire. These weren't just human soldiers. I could see the distinctive silhouettes of Vorthok heavies, Saphiran infiltrators, and things I didn't recognize but instinctively feared. "We need to move," I said, pulling Talia toward the tunnel entrance. "The seal is exactly where they want us to go," she finished. "This is a trap, Garrett. They're driving us toward it. Then we spring it on our terms." We ran through the forest, dodging plasma bolts and the occasional missile. Behind us, the battle for the manor raged on, Benson's voice providing commentary like a demented sports announcer. "Oh, that's going to leave a mark. Sir, these boys are about as coordinated as a sack of angry cats." The tunnel entrance was guarded by a pair of consortium soldiers, their weapons trained on the hidden door. I drew my sword, feeling the familiar weight of mercury-forged steel in my hands. "Together?" I asked Talia. "Always." We hit them like a storm. Talia moved with liquid grace, her alien agility allowing her to dodge their fire while her hands found pressure points that dropped them unconscious. I went straight through the middle, my sword taking the first soldier's head before he could react. "Efficient," Talia said, stepping over the bodies. "Necessary." The tunnel was dark and silent, our footsteps echoing off the stone walls. But I could feel something waiting for us at the other end, a presence that made the hair on my arm stand on end. "They're already down there," Talia said. "I know. And we're going anyway." "I know that too." The basement was a war zone. Consortium troops had blown through the sealed door, their weapons carving chunks out of the ancient stone. Bodies lay scattered across the floor, soldiers who'd gotten too close to the seal's protective field and paid the price. At the center of it all, Marcus Chen stood before the artifact, his face illuminated by its pulsing light. The Galactic Consortium's chief negotiator looked older than I remembered, his hair gone gray and his eyes hard as winter. "Garrett," he said without turning around, "you're late." Traffic was murder. "Indeed." He gestured at the bodies around him. "Your ancestors built quite a monument to paranoia. The seal won't activate for anyone but you, and it kills anyone who tries to force it." "Good design. Wasteful design. Do you know how many people have died trying to claim this power? How many wars have been fought over something only you can use?" I stepped closer, keeping my sword ready. "If you wanted to talk, you could have called." "I did call. You hung up on me. I was busy. Busy falling in love with our infiltrator." His eyes shifted to Talia, who was circling the edge of the chamber like a predator. "Did she tell you the truth? About what she was sent to do?" "She told me enough." "Did she tell you that she was designed to kill you once the seal was activated? That her people don't want a human ally? They want a human corpse and a working weapon?" I felt Talia tense beside me. "Is that true?" "Part of it," she said quietly. "The original plan was to eliminate you once the seal was transferred. But that was before you started caring about him?" Marcus laughed. "How touching. The weapon develops feelings for her target. It's like a children's story." "She's not a weapon," I said. "She's exactly a weapon, just like you, just like all of us." He turned to face me fully. "The difference is, I'm honest about it." "What do you want, Marcus?" "What I've always wanted. Peace, stability, an end to the constant threat of human expansion." He gestured at the seal. "This artifact represents the end of balance. With it, humanity could dominate the galaxy completely. Without it, We're just another species struggling to survive. And you think I should give it to you? I think you should destroy it. End the threat once and for all. I looked at the seal, feeling its power calling to me. It would be easy to smash it, to end the temptation forever. But then I thought about Talia's people, dying on a world I'd never seen, and the weight of that responsibility settled on my shoulders. I can't, I said. Can't or won't? Won't. Marcus sighed. I was afraid you'd say that. He raised his hand and the chamber filled with armed soldiers. They'd been waiting in the shadows, their weapons trained on us from a dozen different angles. Last chance, Garrett. Activate the seal and use it to save her people. Then we'll kill you both and take it for ourselves. That's not much of a choice. It's the only choice you have. I looked at Talia, seeing the fear and hope warring in her eyes. She'd been honest with me, finally. But honesty was a luxury we couldn't afford. Not with an army pointing guns at our heads. What happens if I activate it? I asked. You save a world, Marcus said. Then you die. And if I don't? You die anyway. But at least you'll die knowing you didn't give us the ultimate weapon. I stepped toward the seal, feeling its power resonating through my bones. The artifact was beautiful in its simplicity, a crystalline structure that seemed to contain entire galaxies within its faceted surface. When I touched it, the world exploded into light. Visions flooded my mind. The burn, the solar flare that had nearly destroyed Earth, the desperate bargain my ancestors had made with forces beyond human comprehension. I saw the truth of what the seal could do, the terrible price of its power. But I also saw something else, a future where humanity and the alien races found balance, where the seal's power was used not to dominate but to unite. It was possible, if I was willing to pay the price. I opened my eyes to find Talia beside me, her hand on my shoulder. Whatever you're going to do, she said, do it fast. Benson's running out of ammunition. As if summoned by her words, the butler's voice echoed through the chamber. Sir, I hate to interrupt, but we have uninvited guests heading for the wine cellar. Permission to uncork a few bottles of whoop-ass? Granted, I called back. Much obliged. Time to turn this party into a proper hoedown. The sound of heavy weapons fire filled the air, accompanied by screams and what sounded like Benson singing something about Texas barbecue. Choose, Garrett, Marcus said. Your people or hers, Earth or the galaxy. There's no middle ground. I looked at the seal, then at Talia, then at the soldiers surrounding us. They were all waiting for my decision, but I'd already made it. You're right, I said. There's no middle ground. I pressed my palm to the seal's surface and felt its power flow through me like liquid fire. The artifact began to glow, its light casting shadows that danced like living things. What are you doing? Marcus demanded. Changing the rules. The seal's power reached out, touching every person in the chamber. I felt their thoughts, their fears, their desperate hopes for the future. Marcus wanted peace through control. The soldiers wanted to go home to their families. Talia wanted her people to survive. And I wanted something impossible, a world where none of us had to choose between survival and morality. The power built, threatening to spiral out of control like it had during the burn. But this time, I wasn't alone. Talia's hand found mine, her alien physiology somehow compatible with the seal's energy. Together, we shaped the power, directed it, made it into something new. The transformation began at the molecular level, rewriting the fundamental laws of physics in a sphere around us. The soldiers' weapons dissolved into harmless light. The chamber's walls became transparent, revealing the battle raging above. And in the distance, I could see the consortium ships beginning to change, their weapons powering down as their crews experienced the same revelation we had. Impossible, Marcus breathed. Not impossible, I said, just improbable. The seal's power reached out across the galaxy, touching every world, every species, every thinking being. It didn't dominate or control, it connected. For the first time in history, every sentient creature in the galaxy could feel what it was like to be someone else. The effect was immediate and profound. Wars stopped mid-battle as soldiers experienced their enemies' perspectives. Politicians found themselves unable to lie as their constituents felt their true intentions. The fear that had driven galactic politics for centuries dissolved in the face of genuine understanding. "What have you done?" Marcus asked. "What my ancestors should have done from the beginning," I said. "Given everyone a choice." The seal's light began to fade, its power spent. I felt Talia's hand tighten on mine as the artifact went dark. "Is it over?" she asked. "The beginning is over," I said. "The rest is up to us." Marcus looked around the chamber, his expression unreadable. "This changes everything." That was the idea. The consortium will never accept this. Neither will the other powers. They won't have a choice. The seal's effect is permanent. Everyone in the galaxy is connected now. War is still possible, but it's a lot harder when you can feel your enemy's pain. "You've doomed us all," Marcus said. "Without the old barriers, without the fear that kept us separate, civilization will collapse." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe it'll finally have a chance to grow." Benson's voice crackled through the intercom. "Sir, our guests seem to have lost interest in the party. They're retreating to their ships, and from what I can tell, they're having some rather emotional conversations with their families." "Copy that, Benson." "Also, sir, there's a delegation from the Sephiro's Empire requesting permission to land. They say they want to discuss terms for a permanent peace treaty." I looked at Talia, seeing the wonder in her eyes. "What do you think?" "I think we should hear what they have to say." "Together?" "Always." We walked out of the chamber hand in hand, leaving Marcus to contemplate the ruins of his old world. Behind us, the seal sat dark and silent, its work complete. The manor was a wreck, its windows shattered and its walls scarred by weapons fire, but it was still standing, still home. Benson greeted us at the door, his formal wear somehow immaculate despite the battle. "Sir, madam, I took the liberty of preparing tea, though I should mention we're going to need new china. The old set had an unfortunate encounter with a plasma grenade." "Thank you, Benson." "My pleasure, sir. Also, I've prepared a list of renovations we'll need to make the manor suitable for hosting interstellar diplomacy. Would you like to review it?" "Later," I said. "Right now, I just want to sit down and think about what we've done." "Certainly, sir. Though if I may say so, you've given the galaxy something it's never had before." "What's that?" "Hope." I pulled Talia close, feeling her warmth against my side. In the distance, I could see the lights of approaching ships, not warships this time, but diplomatic vessels carrying representatives from across the galaxy. "No regrets?" I asked. "None," she said. "Though I should probably mention that by the laws of my people, we're now bonded pairs. The seal's energy created a permanent connection between us." "Is that a problem?" "Only if you don't want to be stuck with me for the rest of your life." I smiled, remembering something she'd said what felt like a lifetime ago. "Remember when you said you were mine?" "I remember." "Good, because now I'm yours." She laughed, the sound bright and clear as breaking dawn. "I can live with that." Together we walked into the ruins of the manor, ready to begin the long work of building a new world. Behind us, the stars blazed with the light of 1,000 civilizations, each one connected to all the others by bonds of understanding and hope. The age of fear was over. The age of unity had begun. Epilogue. 10 years later. My name is Arya King, and I live in the most amazing house in the whole universe. Daddy says our house is special because it's where peace started, but I think it's special because it has secret tunnels and Uncle Benson makes the best pancakes ever. Also, Mommy's skin changes colors when she's happy, and that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Today is a big day because the Galactic Council is coming for dinner. They come every year on Peace Day, which is the day Daddy and Mommy changed everything. I don't really understand what everything means, but grown-ups get very serious when they talk about it. "Aria, sweetheart, come help me with the flowers," Mommy calls from the garden. I run outside where she's kneeling by the rose bushes. Her skin is the prettiest shade of emerald today, which means she's really happy. When she's excited, little sparkles appear in her blue eyes like stars. "Why do we always plant roses here?" I ask, pointing to the big crater that's now our flower garden. "Because this is where I first met your father," she says, smiling that secret smile grown-ups get sometimes. "And roses grow best in places where important things happen." "Like when you crashed from space." "Exactly like that." I help her cut the prettiest flowers while she tells me the story again. It's my favorite story, even though some parts are scary. The part where bad people tried to hurt Daddy makes my chest feel tight, but the part where he and Mommy saved everyone makes me feel proud and warm. "Will I be able to do magic like you and Daddy someday?" I ask. Mommy stops cutting and looks at me with those ocean eyes. "What kind of magic, little star?" "The kind where you can feel what other people feel, and the kind where Daddy makes his sword glow like the sun." "Oh, that kind of magic." She sits back on her heels thinking. "Well, you're already doing the first kind. Haven't you noticed?" I think about it. Sometimes when Uncle Benson is sad about something, I know even before he tells us. And yesterday when Tommy from the village was being mean to the new girl, I could feel how hurt she was, and it made me want to hug her. "That's because you have the best parts of both of us," Mommy explains. "Daddy's strength and my empathy. You're going to be something wonderful, Aria King." "What about baby brother?" Mommy's hand goes to her belly, where my little brother is growing. "Leo will be special too, in his own way." "Will he have green skin like you?" "We'll have to wait and see." Uncle Benson appears in the garden carrying a tray of lemonade. He's wearing his fancy butler clothes, which means important guests are coming soon. "Miss Aria," he says in his funny Texas voice, "your father requests your presence in the library, something about showing you the family sword before our guests arrive." "Can I hold it today?" "That's between you and your daddy, little miss. Though I will say, that blade has been waiting for the right hands for a very long time." I run inside, my bare feet slapping on the old wooden floors. The house feels alive today, humming with excitement. All the portraits of my ancestors seem to be smiling, and the afternoon light makes everything look golden. Daddy is in the library, sitting in his big leather chair with the sword across his knees. When he sees me, his gray eyes crinkle at the corners the way they do when he's trying not to laugh. "There's my favorite diplomat," he says. "I'm not a diplomat, Daddy. I'm 8. Age has nothing to do with it. You've already settled 3 playground disputes and convinced the baker's cat to stop stealing fish from the market." "That's different. Mrs. Whiskers was just hungry." "Exactly. You saw the problem behind the problem." He holds out the sword and I sit carefully on his lap. That's what real diplomats do. The sword is beautiful but heavy. The metal looks like it has stars trapped inside it, and when I touch it, I can feel something, like a warm hand holding mine. "It tingles," I whisper. "That's the mercury from Mercury's core. Your great-great-grandfather forged it during the first Space Wars." His voice gets that serious tone adults use for important things. "This sword has protected our family for generations. Someday, it might be yours to carry." "Will I have to fight bad people?" "I hope not, little star, but if you do, you won't be alone. You'll have your family, your friends, and everyone who believes in peace." Through the window, I can see ships landing in our front yard. They're beautiful ships from all different worlds, some that look like silver birds, others like floating crystals, and one that's shaped like a giant flower. They're here. I jump up, excited. Remember your manners, Daddy says, but he's smiling. And remember, these people might look different from us, but they all want the same things: to be safe, to be loved, and to watch their children grow up happy. Like us? Exactly like us. We go outside where Mommy is greeting the guests. There's Admiral Zextai from the Vorthak Republic, who has 4 arms and gives the best hugs. Ambassador Lyrial from the Crystal Coalition, who sounds like singing when she talks. And lots of other people from worlds I've only seen in books. But my favorite is always Dr. Kessera from Mommy's home planet. She has the same green skin as Mommy, but with silver markings that shift when she moves. She always brings me presents and tells me stories about the Sephiro's homeworld. "Little Arya," she calls, kneeling down to my level. "Look how tall you've grown." I'm the tallest in my class now, I say proudly. And the smartest, I'll bet. Your mother tells me you're learning 3 languages. 4, actually. Uncle Benson is teaching me how to curse in Texan. The grown-ups laugh, which makes me feel proud and embarrassed at the same time. We have dinner on the big terrace overlooking the valley. Uncle Benson has outdone himself with the food. There's something delicious for every species. He even made those fizzy fruit things that Admiral Zexatai loves, though he complains the whole time about how hard they are to prepare. "Them fizzy fruits are more temperamental than a bronco with a bee sting," he mutters, setting down the platter. "But I reckon our guests deserve the finest." During dinner, the grown-ups talk about boring things like trade agreements and space routes. But then Dr. Kesahara asks me about school, and suddenly everyone is listening to me talk about my friends and my favorite books. "What do you want to be when you grow up, Arya?" Ambassador Lyrial asks. I think about it carefully. "I want to be like Daddy and Mommy. I want to help people understand each other." "That's a wonderful goal," she says. "The galaxy needs more people like your parents." "And like you," Daddy says, ruffling my hair. "Don't forget that part." After dinner, we all go to the big living room where Uncle Benson serves tea and those little cakes he makes. The grown-ups sit around talking about the old days, before Peace Day, when everyone was scared of each other. "Hard to believe it's only been 10 years, Admiral Zextai says. "Sometimes it feels like the old ways were just a bad dream." "The children don't remember any of it," Dr. Kesara adds, looking at me. "They've grown up in a world where different species work together. It's beautiful." "It's the only world they know," Mommy says, her hand finding Daddy's. And that's exactly how it should be. Later, after all the guests have gone back to their ships, I help clean up. Well, mostly I just carry things while Uncle Benson does the real work. "Uncle Benson," I ask, "do you miss the old days, when you got to fight bad people?" He stops polishing a plate and looks at me seriously. "Miss Arya, I spent a lot of years turning folks into hash browns and brisket, but you know what I like better?" "What?" "Watching you grow up in a world where you don't have to learn how to fight, where you can spend your time learning to help instead of hurt." He smiles. "That's worth more than all the excitement in the galaxy." "But what if bad people come back?" "Then your daddy and I will handle them. That's what family does. We protect each other." That night, Mommy tucks me into bed and reads me a story about a brave princess who saves her kingdom with kindness instead of swords. It's my favorite because the princess has green skin like Mommy. "Mommy," I say when she finishes, "will you tell me the real story? About how you and Daddy met?" "Again? You've heard it 100 times." "But I like it, and I like the way your skin glows when you tell it." She laughs and settles beside me on the bed. "Well, once upon a time, there was a very stubborn man who lived alone in a big house." As she tells the story, I think about how lucky I am. I have a daddy who's brave and strong, a mommy who's beautiful and kind, an uncle who makes the best food and tells the funniest jokes, and a little brother coming soon who I'm going to teach everything I know. But most of all, I have a family that changed the whole galaxy just by loving each other. And someday, when I'm grown up, maybe I'll do something just as amazing. The end, Mommy whispers, kissing my forehead. Not the end, I correct her sleepily. The beginning. You're right, little star. The beginning. I fall asleep thinking about starships and adventures, about the sword waiting for me to grow big enough to carry it, and about the little brother who will soon be here to share all the magic with me. Outside my window, the stars shine down on our peaceful valley, and somewhere among them, people from 1,000 different worlds are learning to be friends instead of enemies. All because Mommy crashed into Daddy's rose garden and they decided to fall in love instead of fight. That's the best story in the whole universe. In the end, we all just want the same things: to be safe, to be loved, and to watch our children grow up happy. Garrett King, first ambassador of the Terran Unity.